It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by AgileDad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started.
All right, everyone. Today we have a very special treat. So today I am here with my dear friend Ryan. Ryan was present for one of our military appreciation classes. Actually, I lied. He was present for two of our military appreciation classes. He had an opportunity to come by for a CSM and a CSPO. Ryan, how are things going?
Great. Very great. Very excited.
Well, class just ended. I mean, when I say just ended, class ended less than 30 minutes ago. And I'm so gracious for Ryan taking some time to spend here with me in Utah. He came in from out of town. He came in all the way from Arizona, so I really appreciate that. But we wanted to just talk to you for a minute about a couple of topics. So the first thing I wanted to ask, you had an opportunity to take both of the classes, a CSM and a CSPO.
Yes.
If you could tell, there are hundreds of classes available online for people to take, whether it's remote or in person. If you were in a position where you were trying to choose a class and now you know what you know about this class, why would you, what about this class made it different from other classes? Why would you lean in on a class like this from AgileDad as opposed to maybe going with a less expensive class or a different class? What stood out to you that made this class special?
First is references. Friends of mine whom I trust recommended AgileDad over other providers.
Mhm.
Taking the opportunity without being able to compare them to the other two, I think the best thing out of both of these classes, whether you're looking CSM or CSPO, is you will learn about yourself just as much as you learn about your present, but your future. You're going to take a lot of internal learning out of this. And I've been to many, many trainings in my life, and some of them we make it through the workbook, we make it through the textbook, we take our test and move on. And congratulations, I never go back on my stuff. But in this class, I genuinely feel, I'm not saying this under your duress, that I have tools that will make me a better me, professionally, personally, whether it's with my family, my faith, or my work. All of these apply, and not a lot of classes that I've attended have enabled me to that extent.
That's super cool. I'll give you your $5 later. No, there was no duress and no bribe there. I think the thing that shocks me the most, and I'm going to go here, is just I've taught, and I keep track of this. I've taught this class probably 520 times. I've taught it a bunch of times. And what I can tell you is every class is different, but there's always something special about doing these classes for military appreciation and giving back to the military. So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask a more specific question. If there are other people who maybe have law enforcement or military background or maybe even educational background where they're not sure, do I have either, am I smart enough, or is this going to be something that's going to be way over my head? What words of confidence can you give someone coming in who may not know a lot about Agile? Is this a right step for them, or how does it transition from maybe what you were doing in law enforcement and the military to what you learned in class to what you're doing now?
Certainly. So I'm going to answer a couple of them.
Yeah.
First, if you're here listening to the podcast, you're already curious enough. So all I can say is some sage advice that I've heard: do it.
Right.
Just do it. You cannot lose. If you're here and you're considering a transition from law enforcement, which I've been in law enforcement, I recently retired from the Army. Both of my professions directly link to my learning here. And a lot of times, before I knew a lot, I thought, hey, agile, software. That was a lot of what I learned about.
Right.
But I can look back on things that I did as a police officer, and I could have done way better if I employed what I learned here. I looked at things I learned as a soldier that I would have been far more effective and lethal had I done them this way first. Hindsight's 2020, but it's absolutely, as far as the learning level, I'm going to give you credit. You're a wonderful instructor that can relate it to everybody. We had 5 very different personalities right now, and you were able to relate individually to each one. Being able to pass basic training, the new things you're going to learn, you've drunk from a fire hose.
Right.
This class is easier to learn and adapt to my life than basic training was.
Wow.
And I'm not trying to say that as a
Right.
belittling the class. I'm able to say that in 2 days, my life is just as profoundly changed, I believe, than it was in 3 months of
That's
boot camp.
incredible. That's amazing. And I just want to make sure I emphasize, this was one of those requests where I asked if there was any student that would, be gracious enough to just answer a few questions. And this is completely impromptu. Ryan has no idea what questions I was going to ask him. There's no notes, no note card, nothing. We're just sitting here having a conversation. And I'm just sitting here humbled. And for those of you who know me, it's hard to make me speechless, but I'm almost there. What I can say is I really do put my heart and soul into every class I teach, but there's a special place in my heart for people who serve, whether it's in law enforcement, emergency services, the military especially. Anyone who's willing to put everything they have on the line to protect my ability to say and do the things that I do deserves heartfelt gratitude. And that's part of the reason why I do these classes the way I do every year. In this instance, we had a lot of key players step up. Scrum Alliance stepped up and provided some of the certification fees. Scaled Agile stepped up and provided certification fees for those classes. Stable Institute stepped up and provided certification fees for those classes. We had Agile Alliance sponsor food and other things here. Just a word for all those people. Overall, how did the class feel? How did it go? I know we had a lot of fun, but we also learned a lot. So I guess my question is, did you feel like the class was suited well based on, did it meet your expectations as far as, you said it was a great class from an instructional perspective, but facility-wise, Salt Lake Community College, I'm going to say they knocked it out of the park with this facility. It was really nice. So the question is, did you feel like everything else was in line and everything else was as planned or better than planned?
Yeah, I was going to be a little glib and say no. It exceeded my expectations.
Right.
As far as location, yeah, spot on. We have a convenient class. The flexibility of, frankly, as coming out of the military, I find myself in a comfortable financial situation because of what I've learned,
Right.
but I don't find myself in a position that I can flippantly just throw money at any potential adventure I'd like to try.
Right.
And the opportunities that these courses have provided to me this week, make my sacrifice seem equal. If that sounds, as a soldier, I do what I do for my family. First
Right.
off, I do it for my family and my guys next to me.
Right.
And down the line, I do that for Americans. But folks like yourself and the other sponsors are doing this. It's for me, but it's not for me. They're doing this for my family.
Right.
Which is something that I cannot express enough gratitude beyond taking what you've taught me and doing it well.
Yeah.
And I feel from this class that I haven't learned a doctrine. I've learned a skill. So I to go Count of Monte Cristo, it's something I hope I can consider myself learned and learned,
Right.
and be able to take this and actually do it and make what others have given me and not squander it.
Yeah. And that's a good topic. I'm glad you brought that up. There are a lot of people who, and it's an emotional topic, it really is. A lot of people who look at this and they see that it's free and this is sad, they've responded it's too good to be true. That it can't be what it says it is if it's free, that it's got to be something different. And I just wanted to make sure that people knew that this is the real deal. This is the actual certification. In fact, I was going to save this as a secret, but this was the very first class that I introduced using AI, artificial intelligence, into the class.
Really?
That was the very first time. Yes, sir.
I said it revolutionary. Like after we kind of put hammer to chisel and put it on stone, and then seeing how quickly that adapted to it, and it's so much better. It's a free thesaurus instead of me having to look for clever words. Wow, this is a profound enabler that I can use to shorten my time dedication to something and focus more on what it's going to get to.
Absolutely. And for those of you out there, we use ChatGPT in the product owner class, And we focused primarily on vision and strategy. We focused on creating North Star vision statements. We spent some time fleshing out a persona. So it wasn't excessive, but I just showed how you could use AI to revolutionize the way that we do Agile. So new Agile insights coming soon into all the classes that we teach. I'm going to try to find ways to incorporate AI because I really do think it makes a world of difference understanding that new technology. Because going forward, I see that as the future of Agile.
Yeah, well, I think you're practicing what you preach.
Right.
In class, where you're teaching us to understand our teams and their skills and the tools that they have and that they don't have, and this emerging tool you implement.
Right.
And so I think you're practicing what you preach to improve our efficiency and the impact of our outcome.
And I always say this for my last question. So I'm going to ask you the same last question. I ask everybody this last question. I call it the thrift store genie lamp. Let me explain it to you. So if you went to a local thrift store and you found an ancient lamp of Agrabah and it had one wish only inside because somebody used the other two, I don't understand why people return things once they use them. But two of the wishes were gone and only have one wish left. If you could, use the skills that you've learned throughout your military career, throughout your law enforcement career, the things you've learned in class, just kind of couple together life lessons. If you could use what you've learned and share a message that could uplift someone or change their career path or help them along, what piece of advice or wisdom would you share with them? What wish would you have to help make the world a better place? How would you leverage that last wish to change the way people do things?
I would have them understand that if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
I like that.
And that's how I got married.
There you go. and it's so funny that you bring that up too. We had a couple of guys in class that were just so funny about their relationship and talking about relationship questions. We had questions come up. We're here in Utah, so we had questions come up about the predominant faith here. We had questions come up about all kinds of topics. But it was just really refreshing to feel like we're in a room where we could openly talk about things.
Yeah.
And everyone just had a spectacular time, and it was a great learning experience. But I'm going to share my big takeaway. And I didn't do this in front of the whole class, and I almost wish I would have. My big takeaway from these military sessions is that I couldn't be more honored. There's not a more deserving group of people that I could have done this for. And I don't care if I had to pay for it out of my own pocket. Sponsors, you didn't hear that. I would have paid that in extra to be able to do this for this group of people, because the people who are here had their heart invested, they had their time invested, and I know that time's the most incredible thing that you have. So the fact that you even carved out a 15-minute segment with me to record this podcast is something, so I appreciate that.
It's my pleasure.
But for all of you out there, I just want you to know, I consider Ryan a dear friend now. I just met him 4 days ago, but I consider him a dear friend. And it's one of those things where I'm sure you'll hear from him again. He's got lots of cool topics that we're going to be able to talk about and explore. I'm going to invite him to come back and do another episode on his own if he'd like, so he can record it. We'll put it out there for you. He knows a lot about the world of government security, military security, law enforcement security, all this other good stuff. But he also knows a fair amount about Agile now, and I'm curious to see as he expands his adventures where this new education and this new learning will take him. Mm-hmm. So I'd love for you to check in regularly at my invitation to come on out and share what you, and not necessarily in person. You can record it and send it to me, but just don't be afraid to share with the audience, because I'm sure a lot of people will want to get to know you and want to hear more about your adventures. There's lots of exciting things out there.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. If you have a topic you want to talk about, make sure you reach out to us, learn more at AgileDad.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening to a special episode. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care. Bye now.